Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie on Tuesday, July the 11th, 2023. Today I want to talk about Prince Harry again. I think I'm allowed to talk about Prince Harry again because everyone else is talking about Prince Harry. And, there's a lot going on in his life, and I thought it would be a good idea to have an update, see what's happening right now. It's early July, see what challenges he's currently having to face, and, maybe we can give Harry some advice. But before I do that, I want to look at the positions of the planets today on Tuesday, July the 11th, and I want to do my star sign forecasts, and of course I want to do the I Ching. So let's start off by looking at what's going on today. So let's switch over, and here we go. There's Harry, looking very happy in that picture. I wonder if he's happy at the moment. I suppose if you read the press, if you look at YouTube videos, you get the impression that maybe he's not a happy camper. But anyway, I will be talking about that later. So, what's going on today? Well, the moon is in Taurus. And, that is good news, the moon being in Taurus. The moon is exalted in Taurus. The moon works very well in this sign because it's Taurus is an earth sign. It's a negative sign. It's a feminine sign. It's it's a fairly nocturnal. It's a nocturnal sign. This is a kind of sign that the moon thrives in. So it's very grounded. And so, many of us were going to be feeling quite grounded after all the drama of Moon in Aries. So it's a time when we can focus on our security, things like that. And at the same time, the Moon is making some great aspects. You can see from this chart that there's the Moon in at 8 Taurus, and it's kind of in a trine aspect to Mars. Okay, it's quite a long way off, but that suggests, yes, it suggests quite a lot of energy, but at the same time, it's sensible energy. Moon is in Taurus, Earth sign. Mars is in Virgo, an Earth sign. We're not going to do anything too crazy with Moon trine Mars. Besides, this trine to Mars is starting to separate, and the moon, having made this trine to Mars, makes a sextile aspect to Saturn. This is very stabilizing. Saturn is in a water sign. We can ground ourselves. So yeah, that's good news. And having made that sextile aspect to Saturn, the moon makes a conjunction to Jupiter. And Moon Jupiter conjunctions are really very fortunate. They are about being warm and optimistic and generous. Particularly in Taurus. Okay, Moon Jupiter conjunction in Capricorn. Hitler had a Moon Jupiter conjunction in Capricorn. It's a bit. That's a different matter. But this is in Taurus. The moon is well placed in Taurus. So I think it's a time when we can be generous. We can be happy, and we might be on the receiving end of someone else's generosity. So overall, I think this is good news. There is some other stuff going on. Probably the most important thing to point out is that the planet Mercury, there's Mercury, Mercury is moving into Leo. So it's spent a long time in Cancer. Well, okay, not that long in Cancer, a few weeks in Cancer, where Mercury in Cancer it's quite a silent place for Mercury. As I've said, crabs rule Cancer. Crabs don't make a lot of noise. When Mercury goes into Leo, that does indicate an increasing amount of pride, believing that our ideas are right, not wanting to, not really wanting to compromise. Meghan Markle, she's got Mercury in Leo. We don't need to talk too much about that. But yeah, Mercury. So when Mercury's in Leo, when people say things, they don't really want to be contradicted. That's not the done thing. I know that on social media, people say all sorts of crazy things on their Facebook pages and so forth about what they're going to do. And everyone says, yeah, that's a great idea, great idea, great idea. And no one wants to say, oh, that's terrible, because that's bad form. Yeah, Mercury in Leo is pride. And if people are talking about their ideas, they don't want to be contradicted. So be careful about that. If you see someone very sure of themselves, but it may be necessary to tell someone that they're wrong, and you may have to deal with the flack for doing so. And when Mercury goes into Leo, it makes a square to the nodal axis. That's a south node, that's a north node. So how do we see this? Well, one interpretation of the nodes, if you like, the German interpretation of the nodes, astrologers like Witter and Ebertin see the nodes as being about contacts. The node is like just a point. It's about how we network, how we deal with other people. So if you look at it like that, then Mercury square the nodes is possibly quite fortunate. It's just about being able to communicate, to ring people up, send them text messages, to network, all this kind of stuff. So that is fortunate. But we might also want to see the nodes in terms of karma. The north node is where we're going to, south node is where we're going from. So if Mercury is square the north node, square the south node, it might mean that we have to think really hard about what is the right thing to do. Maybe we've got a choice. We can make the right choice or the wrong choice. We're often told, oh, it doesn't matter, it's your choice. Make up your mind. You make your own decision. You can't go wrong. There's no such thing as an absolute truth. But I think in this situation there probably is. So if you do have a choice today, particularly if it's a fundamental choice, I would take this choice seriously, because one of those choices is better than the other. One of those choices is about moving in your life's direction. The other choice is about doing something regressive, going back into your comfort zone. So do consider that. I should also point out that the Sun is aspecting the Mars-Saturn midpoint. Mars-Saturn aspect can be really frustrating, and so some of us, when we try to assert our personality, may find that we're blocked. As if we're blocked, we might get really negative about it. We might think it's the end of the world. We might start being destructive and obnoxious and so forth. But maybe if you do find yourself being blocked today, maybe it's for a good reason. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at the 12 signs. So here we go. These are my interpretations for the 12 signs for Tuesday, July the 11th, 2023. Aries. The moon is aspecting Mars, and you're going to be engaged in useful activity, hopefully of a business and career nature. And don't forget the financial dimension. You can work through a lot of material, and your hard work is likely to pay off very soon. But partners are impulsive, and you may have to be a restraining influence. Taurus, a great day thanks to a conjunction between the Moon and Jupiter in your star sign. You're going to be luckier than average, and you'll know how to make people feel good about themselves. However, don't be complacent. There could be a moment of carelessness where you accidentally cause a lot of damage. Gemini, Mercury, your ruling planet, is moving into Leo. In one sense, it's good news. You'll feel more confident and better able to assert yourself. However, there is a danger that you become stubborn, taking the view that you have got all the answers. There are things you don't know, and that's a problem that needs to be addressed. Cancer. It's a good day to be focusing on your social life, with the Moon making favourable aspects to Mars, Saturn and Jupiter. You'll tend to be the centre of attention, and your energy levels will be higher than usual. For best results, you'll work in a group or in a partnership, and you'll be ready to listen and learn. Leo, Mercury is moving into your star sign. You've got lots to say, and you might feel a certain pride in your knowledge and intellect. At the same time, bold gestures can be surprisingly successful. Yet, in one area of life, you're being over-optimistic, and you need to bring yourself back down to earth as soon as possible. Virgo, you feel a sense of quiet confidence. You know things are going your way, but you don't want to jinx it by singing your own praises. At the same time, many Virgoans have to make a decision. There are two choices. One choice represents your true path in life, and the other choice is comfortable but probably wrong. Now, you'll notice that I talked about this, it's to do with Mercury and the nodes in a general sense regarding everyone, regardless of their sign. But I think this choice is going to be particularly important for Virgoans. Libra, you can operate on many levels, and today you need to consider the emotional dimension. People are more emotional than usual, and they need to be treated with kid gloves. Idle conversation is unlikely to go down well, but with Mercury moving into Leo, careful flattery can get great results. Scorpio, you might not be in the mood for a change, but someone else is. Rather than dig your heels in, accept the situation and be open to new possibilities. And with the Moon in Taurus aspecting Mars, your ruler, relationships can prosper. And if appropriate, there may be an opportunity to find someone new who is exactly on your wavelength. Sagittarius, a good day for exploring new subjects which take you away from the everyday grind. Perhaps it's all about finding fresh meaning in a world that can sometimes be very boring. Yet, routine tasks shouldn't be ignored. As the mystics tell us, digging potatoes can sometimes be the best way of finding God. Capricorn, things are great. The Moon is making a 60-degree sextile aspect to Saturn, your ruler. As a result, most relationships will run smoothly and you'll be given the respect you deserve. You'll also be given a chance to demonstrate your talents, even if you're in a situation that appears very boring. Aquarius. It's a day for being comfortable and for not moving on to new territory. So decide on your safety zone and act accordingly. Yet in terms of your domestic environment, there is scope for making some changes. Decor, furniture, that kind of thing. Perhaps if you move a chair 2 inches to the left, it will make all the difference. Pisces. If there has been a recent disagreement, it might now be the time to resolve it. It's not about winning or losing, it's about accepting other people's differences. And because of a conjunction between the moon and Jupiter, your messages will hit the right note and give you the good luck you deserve. So I'm now going to move to the I Ching, and so the first hexagram I got, remember I'm asking, what is Tuesday going to be like for people visiting this YouTube channel? And the first hexagram I got, on the surface at least, is not great. Hexagram number 47, which is oppression. You can see the symbolism in this hexagram. So the top 3 lines represent a lake, and the bottom 3 lines represent an abyss. So the symbol there is of a lake, but there's a hole at the bottom of the lake, and that lake is draining, it's exhausting itself. And so, yeah, we might feel exhausted. At the same time, we might feel that we're up against powerful forces that we can't really deal with. But this top line, it moves. And what the I Ching says about this moving line is that it says that our oppression, our feeling that we're trapped, is actually a bit of an illusion. I think it says something like, it's like our arms are tied together with leaves, some vines or something like that. So the ties that bind us are actually very weak, and we could release ourselves if we wanted to. That reminds me of the standard interpretation of the tarot card, the devil. The devil has 2 lovers that are chained to the plinth that the devil is standing on, but the chain links are very loose. They could escape if they wanted to. And so that's a kind of a similar kind of situation here. Whatever is oppressing us, we can escape, but do we want to escape? We're almost afraid to escape the oppression because we don't know what would happen if we did. But this moves, and the hexagram this moves to, perhaps after we've escaped the oppression, perhaps once we've broken free, we move straight into hexagram 6, which is a conflict. Perhaps we're going to have to confront the people that are oppressing us, the people that are making our lives miserable, whatever, and that leads to a conflict. I'm not talking about some armed conflict, violence or anything like that. Arguments, bad feelings, that kind of thing. And it just may be necessary. We can't be happy all the time, and sometimes people have to be confronted. But it's not a big deal. Once we just have to say, we have to speak our mind. We have to be honest. Obviously, we can't take any risks. We don't want to upset people and make them go completely crazy. But where possible, we need to deal with the people and situations that are holding us back. So now I want to go back to the charts, and I want to talk about Harry. I'm not going to I'm not going to go on for very long, but I just want to, see what's happening in Harry's life. Has anything actually has anything actually changed? So here is Harry's horoscope. I've interpreted Harry's horoscope on quite a few occasions. So rather than just interpret it, I want to say, what's going on now? So when I was learning astrology, you were always told when making forecasts that, they always said forecast, not prediction. That was a big, big difference. Forecast is more general than a prediction. So it was always a forecast. So advice was, but one of the first things you do when you look at a chart is you look at the outer planets and what signs they're moving through, and that might just gives you a general impression about what someone is experiencing. So, for example, if you look at Harry's chart, Jupiter. He's had Jupiter in the third house, I think, since the beginning of the year. So it's been moving through his third house. I suppose from Harry's perspective, he has been doing a lot of moving around because the third house in astrology is short distance traveling. Now I know that moving from California to London and back is not exactly short distance traveling, not to mention the impact on global warming and with one's carbon footprint. But when you do it so much, it's almost like short distance traveling. It's just like going back and forth, and I think that's a third house thing. And one day being in Montecito, the next day being in in the courts in London, trying to take on the Mirror Group newspapers. So there's a lot of activity there. Third house also rules books. I think he's already had his book came out, I think, before Jupiter moved into his third house, but we've still got all the fallout from that, and so there's a lot of communication, the fallout from his book. So maybe the Jupiter in the third house is working relatively well. Then there's Saturn, and I think this Saturn is much more of a concern. So Saturn went retrograde about a month ago, at about 7:13 Pisces. So you can see on the chart about here. In other words, Saturn went retrograde at the beginning of Harry's second house. Now, in astrology, the second house is about money, and I think on the basis of that, money is an issue for Harry. Okay, I know that's not an original thing to say. Everyone is saying that Harry's got money issues. I suppose he's got so many overheads. He's got this huge house, he's got mortgage, he's got a high maintenance wife. He's I don't know his legal costs. I don't know who's paying for the thing with the Mirror Group newspapers, but the security. So he must have a huge, his overheads must be huge. So he must really have to keep earning. So if you lose a Spotify here, and if your doubts about your Netflix, and if your wife doesn't become what was it, that thing with Dior, I don't know. Money is a big issue for him, I think, at the moment, and I know everyone is talking about that, but we can see it in his chart for sure. Saturn is in his second house. Now, what makes it even more difficult is the fact that he has got Mercury at 5 degrees 12 on his 8th house cusp. Now, the 8th house is a money house as well. Traditionally, the second house is kind of your money, like easy money I've got in the bank, and 8th house is more sort of complicated money, like wills, trusts, where you have to deal with other people and all that kind of stuff. And his Mercury is also, in the 8th house. it's a very emotional Mercury. The eighth house is not just about other people's money, it's about deep feelings. It's also connected with sexuality. Yeah, those deeper emotions. It's also connected with death, but I'm not talking about that. So he's got Mercury there. Now Mercury is in Virgo. It's actually quite well in terms of signs. It's actually quite a good Mercury, but it's in the eighth house. So there's a lot of worries there with eighth house. You know, eighth house is about deep thinking, feeling, not thinking, more feeling. And then Saturn is coming along, and Saturn is going to be aspecting this Mercury. Just to show you, on July the 20th, which is 10 days away, that is when there is an exact Mars-Saturn opposition. Mars will be at 621 Virgo, Saturn will be at 621 Pisces, so 621. So let's just look at Prince Harry's chart, and we can see 621. It's not exactly on Harry's Mercury, but it's a degree about, it's just over a degree off. But you know, he is going to have, you know, he's going to have Mars hitting his Mercury, conjunct his Mercury, fast-moving Mars, at a time when Saturn is opposition his Mercury. And so around the 20th, I think he's going to be really worried about money. I mean, I think it could affect him psychologically. I don't know if Harry is seeing a therapist, but this is something he has to deal with. And so how would I advise Harry? I don't know. I mean, for ordinary people, you think, well, he's got so much money, but why can't he just live on less? I mean, for most people, you know, just having just a couple of million would be enough, wouldn't it? I mean, just 2 million, 3 million, that's fine. I won't cause any more trouble. That should be enough to have a nice life, isn't it? But not Harry and Meghan. They need a lot more money than that. So perhaps you would advise him to be modest, more modest, but or to get a different sort of perspective on money. I don't know. No one talks about what Harry should do, but he has to, in terms of his peace of mind, he does have to deal with the financial issue, because I think it's really major, and I think it could be making him worried, sick, and yeah, the 20th could be really difficult. And that's not all that's going on. I also looked at Harry's lunar return. Now, the lunar return it happens every month, and it's when the moon returns to where it was when you were born. And so you can set up a chart for this. So let's have a look at Harry's lunar return. This is his lunar return for Wednesday. Now you will notice that I have set this lunar return for where he was born, not where he happened to be if he's in California. I did not set it for California. That's my view of astrology. We can argue about it, but that's the way I like to do it. You know, some clients, they want it relocated, but in general, I think I just don't think you can avoid your fate. That's my philosophy on having a lunar return or a solar return. You have it for where you were born, so I'm not going to apologize for that. And if you look at this lunar return, you can see that Mars in Virgo is conjunct his midheaven. Is conjunct the lunar return midheaven chart, and Saturn is conjunct the IC chart. You know, this is connected with the home. So the Mars-Saturn opposition is having a big impact in his lunar return. And I think that backs up my theory that this Mars-Saturn opposition is going to be really difficult for Harry. And I think he's going to need a lot of help and support around the time of this opposition. I think it's a big deal. So I think it's going to be a tough month for Harry. And this is not the only thing going on. You know, as one of the commenters on my YouTube pointed out, Harry has got a progressed new moon coming up. So let me just show you Harry's secondary progressions. So this is the chart for 40 days after Harry was born. And you can see this is actually this is set for July the 11th, 2023. You can see that the moon, progressed moon, is now in Scorpio. So something's changed there. When a progressed moon goes into Scorpio, that's not good. Moon does not like being in Scorpio. So I'm thinking that Harry is feeling very emotional, very introspective. It adds to this idea that he is worried. And it's moving to the conjunction of the Sun and Pluto. So over the next month, 2 months, this progressed new moon in Scorpio, beginning of Scorpio, is the worst place for the moon to be. So I think this is going to be difficult. And you will remember that when I was talking about today's planets, today's astrology, I mentioned that Mercury was moving into Leo. So Mercury moving into Leo is going to be square his progressed new moon. So overall, there is quite a lot going on in Harry's life at the moment, and it doesn't look to me particularly good. And I think Harry's main aim now, in terms of his happiness, is to sort out this money issue. It has to be dealt with. And it's not just about earning more money. It's perhaps coming to the right psychological relationship with money and all the things he's spending money on. And I don't know how that relates to Meghan, and how maybe she's just continues to have huge demands. She wants a billionaire, perhaps she wants a billionaire lifestyle, and Harry and their current incomes maybe just can't provide it. So yeah, that is something that really has to be dealt with, and I suppose Harry can deal with it through a psychiatrist. I suppose he might also be able to deal with it through a financial advisor. I don't know, but that's something he's got to deal with. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say for today, and I will talk to you tomorrow.